image here. If I can't see the video, then I can't see your comments. I'm not sure what the heck's going on. There, finally. Right. There we go. Now I can see them. Happy Sunday, all. We are going to be using some funky Tim Holtz vintage stuff from Ideology, and we're going to be using the, as I grab here, we're going to be using the wiper card set from Photoplay, and we're going to be making a wiper card. And if you don't know what a wiper card does, it's when it's closed, like such. And then when you open it up, it reveals something that kind of pops up. And it's kind of a wiper motion, like on your car. So hence the wiper card. So we're going to make something fun today. I decided to go a little bit vintage because I don't do it very often, and I like the look of it. I don't do it very often. So we're going to take our white, plain old card base and make it all fancy schmancy. Hello, Beth. Hi, Carol. All right, shall we get started? Okay, so again, we're making a wiper card today, and who doesn't love when you get a kit to help you out? You don't have to remember any measurements or anything. So in this kit you get 3 sets of card base items, and as I've shown before, you get this in your set, and it gives you a step-by-step process as to how to put it together. So it's very, very easy, nice large pictorial instructions. So, I mean, this is fabulous. I love this. Very, very good. Very well designed. Okay, so we're going to be using some Ideology layers, and this is from the organic line. Plus, we're going to be using some collage strips. Also another Ideology. And we're going to be using some of these. This is the backdrops. So these are 6 by 10 inches, and these are fantastic for cards because you can get quite a few cards out of this. So we're going to be using these. Just to note, this paper is a little bit heavier than like a printer paper or copy paper. So that's nice. These ones are a little bit heavier than that. They're a little bit sturdier cardstock. Just to note, because of the stiffness that sometimes different cardstocks cause for this, when you're layering onto a card base already, you have to be very aware of the joints of this. Because when you add extra paper, like layers on top, they can affect those joints. So be aware of that. Sometimes I cut them back just a hair. So if you want to do a vintage style, you might actually want to distress your underneath paper, like your base pieces. I got them pretty darn close, so I didn't really need to do that, but it's something to think about if you're putting paper on top of that card base. Okay, we're going to start by cutting out all of our elements. So we're going to start with a color theme. It's generally how I start it. Yes, this is very pretty paper. I love all the fonty paper. Like this stuff, it was part of my favorites. There's something about type-based pattern papers. So there is a ton of stuff in this. So if you like doing layouts and stuff like that too, this would be a great item for doing that. I want to pick something that is going to be on our wiper card. And I just love the butterfly because it moves in real life, right? So why not use it as that element that moves? The other option is the birds, but I think they're just a little bit too big. You have to be very careful because there's only so much room for your item to tuck into. So you also have to be aware of that. Okay, so I think we'll use this butterfly. And then we're going to grab a few other elements that I think might go with it. I love these little mushrooms. There's all kinds of things. I believe there's a picture of everything that's in the pack on the back. So you kind of have an idea. There's kind of peachy tones and reddy tones. So that's kind of what I will probably look for in the element to kind of take us through the card and its palette. We can do white. There's some gorgeous leaves. Like, these are really cool. There's a cute little nest. There's lots of little birds too. You know what? That goes pretty well too. It's kind of in the tones that I'm looking for. So I'm just pulling out some of the items that we could possibly use. There's some cute little cards too. Great little leaves, all kinds of blooms, cool eggs. More little birdie cards. Like, oh my god, so cute. And I don't know, there's something about it. I love the library card. That's so cool. That's a pretty color too for a base. More florals. This is kind of a neat element here. It's like almost a map of like a park or an amusement. Yeah, Central Park. So that would be like New York. More kind of larger cards. I think that's the elements we're going to use today. Lots to choose from. You can always go back. So we'll just leave these in a pile off to the side here. If we need more elements, we can definitely go and grab some. I'm going to pull another set of leaves. Hi, Rhea. Okay, these guys are going off to the side. So now that we kind of have our color scheme, we can now go through the collage strips. So I love these because, of course, they're a collage of different pieces of fun papers. So it takes the work out of it when you want to make it look collage-like without having to do it yourself. I mean, the beauty in that. Okay, that one's kind of cool. It's got some greens in it. See if we can find maybe some reds. Okay. Oh, this one's kind of neat too. It's got some red. Like, look at the purples. Stunning. I love that he's gone with more colors in this line. Again, I'm just picking out strips that I think might go. And there's some neutrals in here too. Like, even that green would go really well. I'm just finding our little color niche here. Okay, I think that's good. We'll put them aside. And now we can go and kind of find our base papers. And like I said, these are a little bit thinner. These work really great for a card base. I did some experimenting, but I wasn't happy with my experiment. So I just threw it back in here. Okay, so we're looking for sort of a neutral base. These are double-sided. So something kind of neutral with maybe a little fancy schmancy print or something. There's a postcard that's kind of neat. They have some really cool, like water spotted paper that sat for a while. Like, look at that. Funky. Love it. Like, really cool. I don't know where he finds all these really cool papers. But I'm pretty sure they take photographs of, like, look, it's a tally sheet. Yeah, I'm like, they have some darker ones and more neutrals. And look at the color on this one, eh? Isn't that neat? And then a really nice neutral background. And oh, look at the font. How cool was that? fruit and dough alphabets. Oh, I kind of like that one. So let's put that one aside. There's a map, like a street map. That's pretty cool. It's like the reverse side of a paper though, because it's all in reverse, the lettering. So these are, if you're into vintage, 100%. 100%. Oh, that one's kind of neat too. Let's put that one aside. Crumpled paper. Don't have to crumple it. You can just use it straight off the... Oh, that's like probably somebody's marker inside their book where they can put their name. Oh, a nice heading and like a patchworked piece of paper. I like the fact that they've done some of the reverse sides. Like, look at that. Watermarked. Oh, look at all the gorgeous purples and greens. Yummy. They've used partial pieces. That's kind of a linen. Oh, the paper must have been so thin you can actually see the writing through the other side. Again, another kind of neutral background. Oh, look at the typewriter. Cool. Oh, wow. Like, fantastic bases for getting that vintage look without having to distress your paper because it's already distressed. Cool. Okay, I'm setting them aside. Okay. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you, too, was this. And this is Ideology collage paper. And this comes in a tube. And it's like tissue, okay? So you could actually use the reverse, really. This one just happens to be white. I know there's lots of different ones. I've seen some cream ones with some cool fonts. But these ones have pictures. Vintage pictures. Some cool writing. Some simple images. But yeah, we might use that too. Haven't decided yet. So, oh, and of course it's not going to go on the tube. On the 2B very well, so we'll set it aside. Okay. Hello, Holly. Okay. Now, let's figure out, we're going to use both of these. And we're going to cover our base card first. So, I think it's wise, even though you don't see half of the card down below, but if you peek from either side, like up above or down below, it's nice to have that continuing paper. So we're going to cover the whole surface, okay? It just makes it a continuous type image right to the bottom. So you'll need a ruler. And I've got my trimmer off to the side. And I have like the wonkiness of my ruler. Okay, so we're going to measure. This is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Okay, so it's basically, it's an A2 sized. Now, because we have 2 score marks, one here and one here, I'm going to make it slightly smaller. So, let's go with this end here. So I'm going to do 4 1/4, and I'm going to just do a hint less than that to make way for the joint. So there's that. We're going to set that up. And then we're going to do 5 1/2. So we want to put this on right on our 5 1/2 mark. Sometimes I go a little touch more too, because you can always trim off extra. Okay. And look at that. Okay, vintage is all about collaging, right? I'm not going to do anything, but we're going to fix it, and I'll show you how. So, I don't know why. I must have cut it at 5 instead of 5 1/2. See? I make mistakes too. Okay. What I'm going to do, we're going to actually use one of these. Let's use maybe something with some nice bright red. Let's use this one. So I assume, let's measure, 1/2 inch. Okay, so I'm going to literally trim this piece to 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch. And see, you can fix your mistakes. And it doesn't matter, the writing goes every which way. That's okay. Okay, let's get the right width. This is 4 1/4 minus a titch. Just for that bend. Okay. I make mistakes too. And look, apparently I can't measure at all. This one is deceiving. Okay. I'm a Nimrod today. Okay, I'm just putting this along the line here. I don't know what is wrong with me today. I'm not on my game, guys. Seriously, need a brain transplant. Okay, this just makes it look collagey, right? Right. Okay, so there's that piece. Okay, so these are equal pieces. And Allison, yes, let's read this right. 1 1/4 inches. Okay, so you know what? We can absolutely, I can't pick it up. We can absolutely use this piece at the end, and we'll just do another collage piece, and that's kind of cool. Okay, I'm going to change up the color for the inside. Maybe we'll use this one next. So 1 1/4 yeah, 1 1/4 1 1/4, and I'm going to shave off just a tinkle for the bend. Okay, and then it is, I'm going to take off this side instead. And then we are 5 1/2 high. Yeah, seriously, I know, eh? Duh. Okay, this one should fit. Okay, there we go. And then we want a sliver of paper for our side. So let's go and cut into this one, because we're going to use this for the face. But let's use a little piece of this. So this, measure Allison. Okay, get on the side there. We'll measure. Okay, it's 1/2 inch. Just double checking. Okay, can I do this? 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch. So I'm just lining it up with that silver edge. Okay, there. Okay, and this little fella's gonna go down there. Okay, and this will just help tie it into the front piece. Okay, so now we've got all our pieces. The next thing that we can do is I'm gonna grab some Distress Oxide. Let's see, maybe just a little vintage photo, that's most appropriate. And I got to grab, so this is how I store my sponges. So I have them pretty much labeled, but sometimes I don't have them in any particular order. It's how I collected them. So I have to find my vintage photo. Tea dye. Oh, apparently I need a new sponge. Okay, good to know. 1 second as I grab my tool and I grab a new sponge. Okay. You guys having a good weekend? I hope you are. We've had a very, 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 very busy week. I was in Ontario for 7 days. My entire family basically lives in Ontario, so I went home to see my mom. And then I got a phone call the first day, and my father-in-law had fallen at his respite care. So he'd been there for 10 hours, and somehow, I believe, getting out of bed that night, he fell. So they transported him to the nearest hospital, where they basically said, yeah, he broke his hip. He's 87. And his wife was at home. because she had a scheduled hip surgery, believe it or not, the same week. So he had hip surgery on the Saturday morning, and then we were told the worst, and my father-in-law passed away on Sunday with almost all of his family next to him. My poor husband was still back in Alberta and wasn't able to attend, but his other 2 kids and his wife were at his side, and so was I, and 3 of his grandchildren. So it's been a hard week. And then when my father-in-law passed away, we encouraged my mother-in-law. She needed to go and have her hip surgery done. So the day before we left, she had her hip surgery. So yeah, it's been kind of a whirlwind. It wasn't something we expected. My husband did make it the next day. He flew in. He was able to see his brother and sister and his mom, who he hadn't seen for 5 years, or he hadn't been home for 5 years. So yeah, needless to say, it was a tough week. Yeah. So I'm just edging everything. Sorry. Spilled my beanie weenies because I really haven't put it out there, only to close family and friends. So yeah, it was tough to see that happen, especially for his daughter and his son and his grandkids. So okay, there we go. Okay, they're all beautified, and we'll put a little here and a little there. There we go. Okay, we're going to use this again, so I'm just going to set this off to the side. Thanks for all the hugs, the virtual hugs. Okay. Oh, you know what? We need to trim those. It helps if you trim them. Okay. All right. I'm going to do them one at a time here. Okay, 5.5 for height for that one. And, oh, that's 5.5 height for that one. And of course you can just do and do. Hi Valerie. Thanks guys. It's kind of a tough story. 2 hips, 4 hospitals. We basically toured southwestern Ontario. We were all over the place. All over the place. Okay. So I don't know if you guys do this. If you are a sewer, I love adding stitching to my vintage stuff. Like, love. Doesn't have to be hand stitched either. So, shall I make room for my sewing machine today on just a little something? Shall we do that? And I'll give you a few tips about sewing on paper. Okay, so I'm just gonna add a little bit of oddball stitching to this just to make it a little bit more vintage. What I am gonna do is we're gonna take okay, so this is just leftover, it's actually grid paper. I'm going to just cut off a little bit of a band. This is nice and thin. You want to do this with a thin piece of paper. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make like a paper bridge. So instead of having the stitching show through the back, I want to hide it. So I'm going to use this like a little bridge to connect 2 pieces of paper. So it doesn't have to be fancy because nobody's going to see it. Okay, so I try not to use a lot of adhesive next to my stitching. Okay, so I'm just going to literally just throw this on. It doesn't have to line up anything. Okay, because all it's doing is just holding 2 pieces of paper together. You just have to make sure that your edges are lined up. Okay, and you can trim off that extra strip of paper. Okay, because you're never going to see it, okay? So I kind of back cut it. So I cut or put my scissors behind so it's not sticking out or there's not like a little white edge. So yeah, you absolutely can't see that there's a strip of paper behind there. Okay, so let's pull out my sewing machine. It's literally right under my desk. We're going to add like a zigzag stitch to kind of make it look like it's stitched together, okay? 1 second as I pull this little fella up because she's kind of heavy. Okay. And she's turned around for some reason. Okay. Now, I will tip my machine so that you guys can see this as I do it. But give me a sec. She's grungy on the top. Okay. So you do not need the world's best machine for this, okay? She's well loved. She's actually stitched more paper than fabric. Okay, let's turn her on. And I have a panel. Again, you guys are gonna be limited in what you can see. Oh, and I just disconnected my foot pedal. Okay. Okay, so I always we're doing a zigzag, okay? Yeah, she's dusty. If I'd known I was going to use this, I would have dusted her off. Okay, I can adjust the width of the stitch and the length of the stitch. Okay, so I play with those until I find kind of what I want. Okay, hopefully we can kind of see, sort of. Okay, so I always have like a scrap of paper because that's where I fiddle with my stitches. Okay, so I'm just going to put it down, and you know what, I need a new scrap because this one's kind of full. So I just grab one of my stash of paper. Okay, and then I always test it, so I put it down. Sometimes I play with my buttons first. I have my pedal underneath my desk. So the key to stitching on paper is number 1, tension. So on my machine, I can adjust my tension by this little piece up here. So generally it's lower than a fabric. So I do anywhere from 2 right even to 0. And you can play with this on your machine and the kind of paper. So keep your scraps of the paper that you're going to use and just do a test run, okay? So like I said, I play with the tension and I play with the stitch width. So let me do a few more testers here. Oh, did it change? It did. Change to a straight stitch. Okay, I don't want that as fat, so we're gonna, there, that's a little better. Okay. So again, I always do a tester because I want to see where we're at. Okay. I'm not sure where we're there. I'm hoping you guys can see this. So you just have to line it up, right? There's just our paper holder, and you're going to put it through your machine. And again, you can test this all out. Fabrics act differently than paper do. You have to decrease the tension because you'll rip the thread right out of the paper. And of course, you can do any color of thread that you want. You can experiment. There you go. And I let my, oh, and you know what? My bobbin ran out. This is special. It's naked. Hang on. I think I have another white one. No, I do not. Of course no. No, that won't fit. Okay. Lesson today. This is fabulous, Allison. Yep, this is great. Okay, you guys really can't see this. Okay, I'm going to put my bobbin up on top here. I'm going to pull my thread. It's just still attached to my project. Yay! How many scripts can you do in one day? Okay, I'm going to put my bobbin in. make sure that my thread is going the right direction here. Whee! To do my bobbin. And then I'm going to string it onto the bobbin so it's actually going in the right place. Okay, there's a little hole in the bobbin. You have to go from the center of the bobbin up and out the top. Okay. And I've got a lot of string out. I'm just going to pull it taut. Okay, put the bobbin in position so it doesn't actually stitch. It rotates. I just turn up the speed and away we go. And this is really boring. I'm sorry. But you know what? It doesn't work if you don't have a bobbin. Okay, that's good. Okay, snippy snip. This is fabulous. You love this today? Yeah. Grimy sewing machine, because I never put the lid on it. Like, ever. Because I just want to pull it up and use it. Okay, I'm going to rethread this. Let's push her back. Sorry about this. This is one of the things that, if you're not prepared, you're guaranteed you're going to have issues. Yeah, and I kind of thought about showing this today, but really didn't think about it. And then, of course, you got to add your bobbin to its little house. Make sure it drops in the right way, and then put the cover over. And then again, bring in your tester piece. Okay. Fabulous, Allison. Yeah, let's look at the top of the sewing machine for the next hour. Okay. Trimity trim trim. Okay. And you know what? This makes it really vintage when you already got holes. See? Okay, we're putting her in. Sometimes I back pull. I'll just pull out threads here. You can absolutely take it all the way out, but this just makes it more vintage. I love it. Okay, so I'm just going to put it under the machine. And I'm just going to line up my previous hole, because they're already there. As long as you don't adjust the settings of your machine, you can almost always put it right back in the holes. Not always, but you know what? It just makes it more vintage. Yep. And that's the way the cookie crumbles. Okay, so okay, I'm gonna have to move this machine. Funny. Okay. So there we go. We have some vintage stuff stitching on it. That's hilarious. Of course, you can trim it. Trim it, trim, trim. I like to leave a little bit of string, like the ends hanging out, because you know what? That just makes it that much more unique. Okay. So let's attach this before it disappears. Okay. And I try to embed my threads into a line of adhesive. Or you can just tape, or you can tape them. Sometimes I tape them too. But if you embed them in some adhesive, then you don't have to. So there, I just run adhesive right over top the ends. It solves the problem really easily. Okay. Okay. You're going to have your 2 equal-sided pieces on the right-hand side. So make sure you put your paper in the correct direction. You don't want to put stuff upside down if it has words that you have to read. Yeah. Okay. So we have this little strip. The joys of live videos. Okay, I mean, you can put stuff upside down, which kind of makes it sort of vintage, right? But For the most part, it's kind of nice to put stuff right side up. Okay, this is the little strippity-doo. And of course, we could have done the same thing as what we did here between these two pieces. That would have been kind of neat. Again, vintage is kind of about experimentation and layers. So sometimes the more that you fuss with it, the better it looks. It's so weird. There we go. That's kind of a neat panel, right? A little bit of stitching detail. Okay. There's one. Okay, so we next have this piece of paper, which we're going to also cover. I'm going to go back to our kind of, it almost looks like a cardboard backer. Okay. I need my ruler. I always double check, or at least I thought so. Okay, this is 4 1/4 by 3. 4 1/4 by 3. Frig. Okay, let's go 3 on this one. 3. And we'll go 4 1/4 minus, actually this is a other fold, so we can go right out to the 4 1/4. Okay, there's that piece. Okay, and then there's 2 identical pieces, and I'm just double checking. They are 1 1/4. 1 1/4. And I really like this piece, but I don't think I'm going to use it. So let's use this one. So width first, 1 1/4. Okay, these are, I like these strips. I think they're very cool. And then they're 3 inches tall. 3. Oh, I'm so sorry for cutting your head off. I'm sorry, little boy. Okay, and we need something red. It's one of the red ones. Oh, you know what? Hang on. Oh, we'll use this strip. Hang on. This one. Let's just cut it to 3 first. Okay, this is actually, so this is a great way to use scraps. So this is only 1/4 of an inch. So I need a piece that is now 1 inch. So maybe we'll use this one. We'll cut it to 3 first. And then we'll cut it down to 1 inch to make our 1 1/4 inches. Okay. All right. So there we go. There's our covering pieces. So what I've done is I've tried to tie all of my colors together. Okay. So what I think we'll do is we'll add, this one's kind of, I have some scraps here, right, from cutting our back. So what I may do is add a little touch to that piece there, just as a decorative element. Okay, but let's go and edge our stiff. Hi, Sandy. Okay, just trying to make everything somewhat uniform. You can use different colors to edge. Like you could do a darker edge on some things, like more like an espresso. That would be really cool. Mix and match so that everything's maybe not the same color. And some of my edges I'm making quite fat, not just like the edge. I'm going quite a bit out into the images just to make things somewhat uniform. Look at the pretty poppies. They're so pretty. Okay, so again, just trying to make everything look like it sort of goes together. Sort of. Oh, and then we have our teeny tiny itty bitty piece. Just a little bit of brown to finish that one off. Okay, here's we goes. Okay, we're going to adhere everything now. Let's start with our big piece. So I have a card and a little gift to give away today. So all you have to do is comment on the live and you could win today's card and also the little gift that I'm giving away along with that card. So like I was saying earlier, if you don't want white underside to show when things bend up, you can absolutely take your distress tool and just do those edges. Helps if you open it. Dough. So you can actually bend them and give them, just go back to your instructions so you know, but you can bend them just and edge them with your ink, and that way they will tie in a lot better. You won't see that white core paper as much. So you can do that. It's another good way of making things uniform. Just adding adhesive. We're going to add them to our strips. So the one thing I do recommend is that you be very aware of the thickness of your cardstock for this. The thinner the paper, the better things bend. And I would suggest if you have a fold like this, that you just be very mindful of where you put your pieces. And oh, this one is not above. Needs to come up a little farther. Yes, especially with vintage, you know, you may not want to see that white core paper. Now the other thing to do is to use a darker color as your card base, because you can mimic these for sure. You could mimic, oh, this one is not going to cooperate, so I need Mr. Wet Glue. Where did Mr. Wet Glue go? It just doesn't want to cooperate. Otherwise it's going to bend. Okay. So I would suggest, even if you're doing the same paper across these two pieces, like where there's a fold, I would highly suggest that you actually cut them into two separate so that that fold can still fold, if that makes any sense at all. Okay, so sometimes it looks like it's going to fit. Sometimes you have to trim this, and that's okay. So I'm just going to take a pair of scissors because it's a little bit too thick. There we go. There, that works a lot better. So there we go. We have our basic card base. Now we have one more element that we have to think about. So this is the wiper mechanism. Okay, so let's go back to our instructions here. And I always go back and make sure that this is put in the right direction. So it actually has to be flipped the other way. So what I do is I cut this element out first. Okay. Sorry, my husband's outside sneezing away. So we're going to cut this out because we're going to cover this with paper too. Because the last thing you want is this gorgeous vintage background and have this white mechanism pop out from behind the card. You'd be like, what was that? It doesn't fit. So we're going to make it fit. So not only could you cut this out, you could also then cut it out and just trace it on the cardstock that you're using. So if you had a brown cardstock base for your card, just basically trace this out and cut it out of your corresponding cardstock. could do this with your pattern paper too if it was stiff enough. This needs to be fairly rigid to work, but that's okay. So I want this piece is gonna basically pop out on top of this. So we're gonna pull this paper in to put over top of it so it's not so stark. Okay. So I just want to double check that I'm covering the right side of this. So you want it to make it look like the picture. See how the L goes up? Okay, and I just want to make sure we're going to put this in position on our paper like such. So that's the side that I want to cover right there. That is the mechanism we want to cover. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to glue it right to the back side. So actually I'm going to take a little bit of dry first, and then I'm going to add some wet glue too, just so we can get an instant coverage. Okay, this is a nice light cardstock, and I'm just going to line up that fold line and press it down. So now you just flip it over. I'll just cut this off. And you're just going to trim it. That's all. It's just a way to cover it more easily. Because you don't need to cover the end. You just need to cover the thing that pops up. And this just helps make whatever you pop up more uniform in that background, if that makes sense. Because you're going to see this paper and not a stark white lever. Okay, there we go. Okay, we have our mechanism. Okay, so are we ready? Are we ready? Shall we put this little feller together? Okay, you know what? Let's do a tiny bit of distressing. Just a tiny bit. Okay, there we go. Let's put this sucker together. Okay, we're going to bring in our magical card. This is found with your sets of cards. You can make 3 of these. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to adhere this flap to the edge. So I'm going to trim off, there's a little bit of excess paper on this piece, so I'm going to get rid of that first. There we go. And just go back and make sure that it's edged. Okay. So I want to use a really good heavy duty adhesive. So I'm actually going to bring in my creative tape or my Scorpel tape or my Suang tape, whatever you want to call it. This is my go-to if I need something to really, really adhere. The nice thing about this stuff is like you can literally rip it. And I'm going to go the extra mile and put 3 down. And that's just a matter of peeling. I always have at least 2 sizes of this tape on hand. I believe this is a 1/4 inch. I like the 3/8 inch. And I also like this one. I think this is 2/8 or something like that. Okay, so the next thing to do is to butt this corner into that corner. Just line up the edge and the bottom, and you're going to press it into place. Okay, there we go. So the next thing to do is to fold this back, because we're going to then put our wiper element on, just like it shows. So it just wants adhesive on the flappy part, this part. Make sure you put it on the right side. So put it in position and then go, okay, I need adhesive here. So again, I'm going to use my really sticky stuff, because this stuff works like a dream. And I try not to put too much up towards the bend, because I really want that bend to still work. Okay, so peel off our adhesive. Okay. All right, so we're going to line this up just like the diagram shows. So this line. Now, you also want to put this corner as close to the corner up here, but don't put it too high. Just back it off just slightly so it sits down behind. See how there's a little bit of a gap there? There. And that will sit in the correct place. So as you bend it, it reveals whatever you're going to put. Okay? There we go. Now we can fold this side. So we're going to fold this first. And this is why you have to be careful about thickness of papers. We're going to fold this back. And see how you can see the white core on that? It's exactly why it's a good idea to get in with your ink. Hi, Denise. So you can still go in and do this afterwards. Just know that you're going to add ink to those papers. See how I've added a fair amount of ink? So you just have to figure out what works best. You could use a smaller tool to get in. It's all about playing. And this is why you do those joints before you put your paper on. So you don't have to do this. But it's not impossible. Okay? There we go. And again, you just make it look like it was supposed to be that way. I'm just going to darken the whole piece. Bum, ba, da, da. See? You can fix anything. Paper's easy, man. Okay. So this one bends, and we have to connect this corner to this corner now. So your best bet is to take, you know what? I want to get rid of, I have a tiny little white edge here, just on that cardstock. So we're going to get rid of that white edge. There we go. Same with here. Good old ink. Yeehaw. Okay, so for this one, you only want adhesive only a certain distance over. So I know this is 1.5. So if I take my ruler and we'll grab a pencil, I'm going to measure over, just put a couple of tick marks. So, sorry, this is 1.25 width. So I can't put adhesive past that mark. Okay, again, we're going to use our strong stuff. Okay, sorry. You just have to make sure that your adhesive doesn't go past that, because then we'll stick down stuff that's not supposed to be stuck together. It won't work. And this is all shown on the diagram, and it shows you the dimensions of where to put your adhesive. Okay, so we're getting there, guys. We're almost there. It's just a matter of decorating now. We've got all of we've got our wiper element, and we've got some of our decorative elements ready to go off on the side here. Okay, so the key to this is join those corners together, the bottom edge and the side, and then she's a done. Okay, so see how that wiper mechanism pokes up? There we go. Now the next thing is that you kind of have to play with your element. So we chose to use the butterfly. Okay, so you have to kind of flatten it. I also suggest you test this out, because not everything is going to tuck properly. You almost have to do like a dummy round with it. So take a tiny, tiny bit of adhesive at first. Okay, because you can always pull it off and add more. But I'm going to use this tiny, tiny piece. And it's going to help me. I'm going to add some skin cells to make it less sticky. Okay, and then you have to play with this element. You may have to put it on an angle because it needs to tuck down behind. And see how his wing doesn't go behind? Means I have to adjust him. So I'll just adjust his body up a little bit. And just make sure it goes all the way in. So see, that works much better now. Now he hides like he should. Okay, so double check it. Make sure whatever you're using as your wiper element is good to go. And then you just add a little bit of new adhesive and away you go. You can also squeeze some wet adhesive underneath there. So I know he has to kind of go a little bit at an angle and a little bit more to the left. Okay. Dun, da, da, da. And then you know your element works. Okay. So I know we were going to put a little bit of fun stuff down here. So I'm just going to add that quickly. I should have done it before I adhered it, but that's okay. Again, this is just to tie everything together. Just another little element. It'd look really good if it was stitched on too. So I could have stitched that on before anything goes. Okay, and again, you'll just have to play with it because joints need to be pressed and creased and it needs to be played with so that it operates really well. Okay, let's bring in our elements here. We have mushrooms. I'm not sure 100% what that is. It could be no, it can't be a dahlia. Don't think it's a mum. I just don't recognize it. Could be a dahlia. That's what I'm thinking. Okay, we also have a bird and we have some leaves. So next we're just going to make a scene. So let's start off with our cute little mushrooms because they're adorable. Okay. This card has already got a fair amount of 3-dimension because of the thickness of the card base and then the additional layers of paper. So just be aware that maybe sticking stuff on with foam on this style of card just won't jive. And that's okay. We're putting on our mushrooms. And we have to put on our birthday. Now remember, you can trim anything down. Like if you only end up putting on the bird's head, then only put the bird's head on. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't put stuff on inner joints. You can stick stuff on outer joints like this, but just know that when you fold this, it's not going to fit within the parameters of your card. So be aware. You can put it in a fatter envelope 100%, or you can just find a different spot for it. Okay? So just think about that. Like if I put it there, it's not as big a deal. I'll have to cut off his tail. Again, that doesn't bother me. Sometimes it bothers people. So just know. And it's all about playing around now. Okay. And of course you can fussy cut things out of paper to add it. You kind of make it your own. Now, see when I put this there, this works fine because it's on the inside of the card. So it just bends into the card. So we'll do that. Yes, Sandy, sometimes you need somebody to walk you through a 3-dimensional project because sometimes you just don't think about the 3-dimensional aspect of it. And if somebody kind of shows you, oh, you have to be aware of this. Yeah. Or sometimes you just have to do a dummy one. I've done that too. Like find your crappy, light, barren paper and use that to make your dummy one. So Denise says, I have a question about glue. Do you start with the pin in it or Do you clean out the metal tip and cap of the bottle? Okay, so this is Barely Arts glue. It comes with a stainless steel pin already in the kit. You can actually get an additional kit with an additional pin. I highly recommend that you do that. I store it with its pin in standing up like this. Now, I've seen other crafters store it like this without the pin, with a moist towelette kind of underneath it. I don't recommend that. Just store it with its pin in it. And the reason why it has a little flag is so it doesn't get lost on my desk. Just if you were wondering. Because things that tiny seem to walk away. So the other thing too is, you know, don't be afraid to tuck stuff underneath too. So you can just shave off the stem because you don't have really any room to tuck it underneath. There's nothing wrong with just doing a snip. Okay. Again, just adding a fairly generous amount of glue. I don't want this stuff to come off. Okay. And we're going to tuck this little beauty kind of down under. There we go. And then, I'm not sure about the birdie. I think he has to go. Don't think he quite fits. The other thing is that a greeting. You can definitely stamp on a greeting, or you can leave it without. I quite often make cards where I don't have a greeting. I just find that sometimes I don't know who I'm making it for. So, the other thing too is these are very much a white background. You could also distress these with inks too to make them not so white. Okay, just something to think about in your design. And again, just think about your placement. We're going to do a little trim. So if I close this, I can actually see that it's not too bad actually. If it needs a little trim. There we go. It's something a little different, right? It's taking a base card project, like our photo play, okay, our wiper card, but making it your own. So if you like vintage, you can make things vintage. It doesn't have to be white, or you can copy the design. So measure everything out and make a card base out of the cardstock that you want to make it out of. Like if you wanted a brown, or if you really did want it white and you wanted like a matting where your white cardstock shows, 100%. Okay, this would be cute with a little bit of twine. Again, I would have put maybe a little bit more stitching on it in places just to make it look a bit more vintage. But there you go. So Denise says, thanks, I find my liquid glues want to clog up the tip because sometimes I might go a few days between uses. Yes, then I have to use a pin to unclog it. Yes, that's why I highly recommend the Barely Arts. It's already designed so you don't have to fiddle with the pin. So yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. The only product that I kind of showed you but didn't use was our tissue. And this is nice because it's white, so you can ink it to match this color. So you could ink it so that it fits in a little bit more. But you can just use a collage medium. So multi-medium matte is a good one. So you put this down on your surface and then apply this, and you can put a coat over top of it. It works really well for tissues. So yeah. Thanks for joining me today for my little pity party. I'm looking forward to hopefully being in my craft room in the next week over at the new house. I still haven't taken my desk over there yet. Thanks for joining me. I will pick a winner of a card and a little gift from me as soon as I'm done. So give me about a minute or so. I'll post it in the comments, and I will comment on one of your comments, whoever the winner is. And I truly appreciate you guys coming out on a Sunday, and I'll see you again on Tuesday for Technique Tuesday, and have a great weekend. Bye, guys.